Hello and welcome to Monarchist Minute, your royalist news in the United States of America. I am Vice Chancellor Clements Magnolia. With me, my very good friend Watercube.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. We're starting to get the storms from the hurricane. I was washing clothes outside and I had to move it all in because the wind was really picking up.
Ooh, fun. I know down here, we haven't, although, only we're both just different states right next to each other, but of course down here in Carolina, it's not as bad. I mean, all we had was just a bunch of rain today. No winds, just a whole bunch of rain.
I think you're a little bit more inland than me.
Yeah.
I'm right along the James River and along the
Mhm.
coast at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's
I know,
like,
yeah, I'm still like a good 10 miles off of the coast. I mean, that's not a lot, but, still pretty, at least a bit more inland
it
compared to
makes a
other places.
difference.
Yeah, and I mean, I ain't next to the rivers because there's just two rivers like right next to me, like I'm literally in the middle part between both of those two rivers. So I'm like triangulating between the coast and the two rivers next to me.
Honestly, though, that's kind of nice. Like
It is
two
nice. I
canoeing
like.
options.
Yeah, there are. I mean, we don't really go out very often though, due to the fact of just busy or just the fact that we don't do it. I mean, we have a jet ski that I personally have not been on the jet ski for, oh gosh, I think over a year now because I kid you not, the past 3 times my family has gone out, I was sick.
Oh,
I
that's
kid you
awful.
not, 3 times. And one of those times we had guests over too. So you can imagine how fun that was to me
Yeah.
being sick while everyone else was out in the freaking jet ski and canoeing.
Oh, yeah. Like being sick during any event like that it just sucks.
Yeah, and my mom's sick right now though. I think she got COVID again, and she's also having trouble hearing right now though. So she's gonna go to the doctor soon to make sure it ain't an ear infection.
Isn't like lack of hearing or like stuffy ears a symptom of COVID as well?
Yeah, it's the because what happens is your ears the eardrums or something in like just in between the ear and your skull, it swells, so it
Mhm.
makes it harder for you to hear.
The snail gets angry.
So true, so true. And that interesting. But we have the two topics I want to talk about today. The first one is the election in Venezuela. Very democratic election right there.
Average Central and Southern American election.
True, a very much an election in very big quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
I
good
mean,
ritual for the state.
yeah, honestly, a very good. Like that's one thing though is that like we understand the fact that you need to have your rituals, and in modern democratic systems, very often the ritual is the election.
Yeah, like oftentimes your vote doesn't matter, realistically, like, because it's hordes of people voting. But the act that you went out to vote is you paying homage to the state. It's you swearing
I,
fealty and upping your social
you know,
contract.
I don't agree with you. I partially agree with you on the fact of the hordes of people though, because just because of the local elections.
Oh, I more mean for the federal ones, because
Oh
now
yeah,
people pay more
federal.
homage to
Oh
the
yeah,
federal
yeah,
election.
yeah. Yeah, that's the yeah exactly. I mean, this is the one thing we've always been saying is local matters a whole lot more than the federal does. But yeah, you are correct though, because the problem nowadays is the fact that we have so many people who we have to pay homage to our democratic state, and by voting in the federal elections, and no one cares about the local elections, which actually affect them a whole lot more.
It's because like it feels better to pay homage to like the big state because you can also other that state. Like
Yeah,
there's a reason to do ritualism towards it and deify it in some ways. Like I've
yeah.
talked about this before where a lot of people deify the state either negatively or positively because they
Yeah.
want something to latch onto.
Exactly. Yeah. Like what is it? I saw Lavender. Anyone out there? We're Lavender is a great YouTuber. I'd suggest watching him. He put out a new video talking about conservatives, modern conservatives, and how a lot of them are just like, well, I just want to be left alone. And I kind of see like that's like one half of the group. Is the group is just like it's the more libertarian aspect of just, well, I just want to be left alone to do my thing. And it's just like, okay, but you can't really do that though.
Like it exists on the left as well, but
Yeah. Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
everyone has their libertarian live and let live. I do not want to do further pushes in society. I
Yeah.
only want society to change so I can live in comfort.
Yeah. But that's not how it works though.
societies are uncomfortable. It's why it took us forever to figure that out. It took us 8,000 years to figure out advanced, complicated society is good. And on the breakdown of advanced, complicated society, we can look towards Venezuela.
Oh yeah, we can see how Venezuela was once one of the most prosperous countries in South America. I think it was at one time, though. It was actually doing quite well. Had a somewhat actually functioning democratic system for a while. Like I think, well, they were doing a whole lot better than their neighbors. That's for certainty. Because Colombia is still technically in a civil war right now.
Yeah, it's still basically a narco state.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Brazil had multiple military coups. President Vargas. I mean, the only ones that really exceptions were Guyana, but then again, that was just because it was still a British colony for half of that.
And they also had stuff like the People's Temple going on.
Yeah, that's true. They also had the People's Temple going on, and the congressman died.
Yeah, here's the thing. At least on Venezuela, I don't like Maduro, but I liked Hugo Chavez before him because I agree somewhat with that economic populism.
I agreed with him in principle, but of course his actions inevitably led down to what we see in most modern and socialistic states, where they begin going down the path of the mass centralization of power and economics in the state.
And it's always that fall to corruption as well, which seems to be very inherent to these things. Where
it's a natural phenomenon that we see, especially in the more modern age. Because with the more not saying that there wasn't corruption back before the modern states. When I mean a modern state, I mean basically anything from the 1800s onward. I would say is a more modern.
It's when liberalism was fully ushered in and all the implications of the Enlightenment come to pass.
I personally wouldn't say it was liberalism. I think it was more of just the technological advancement that would allow these things to be put into full power, though.
Well, I'd say it's somewhat the Enlightenment.
I'm not saying it isn't the Enlightenment, but I think the technological advancement allowed the Enlightenment ideals to fully come into what we see them, the final end goal now. And we see that a lot with modern, or the more modern states, where corruption becomes so much easier because, in fact, there's so much more technology that allows us to do that, and the routes to power become sort of a bit easier, I guess you could say, with communications much faster, easier to power project and such things.
I'd say with corruption, it's harder to do, but once you get the faucet going, it's going.
Yeah.
Corruption, there's a lot of ways to prove corruption. I think we reached an apex of corruption around the 1950s, and then it started shifting to those who were already entrenched were able to turn that faucet on and never stop.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's true for almost all of our societies. I think there's outside of some nations in Europe, I'd say there's no democratic system without heavy amounts of corruption on some level.
Oh yeah. And I mean, of course, there's different states that have different levels of corruption, obviously. I would say there's at least a few who are doing better when it comes to the corruption and scandals and such. But of course, even in what we would call modern democratic countries will inevitably still have corruption scandals. I mean, we already had in Japan just a few years ago. There was two massive ones, of course. After Shinzo Abe was assassinated, they came out the scandal with the Unification Church, a bunch of false Christians.
Yeah.
And then there was also a funds scandal that happened not too long ago that led to the LDP losing 3 seats in by-elections, and most likely will leave the current Prime Minister of Japan getting ousted by his own party.
Yeah, to touch on the Unification Church more, there's also American corruption. The GOP and the Unification Church are a little close, thanks to Richard Nixon. Tricky Dick, once again, setting up issues that we got to deal with now. But
he did nothing wrong.
Except the Unification Church.
That is true. That was the one thing, yeah. Well, not one thing, but that is one of the things.
That's one of the oopsies. But to get back to Venezuela, I'm not really fully aware of the situation, and I'm sure it's like some people listening would not be. Could you explain a bit about it?
So what basically happened was I've seen like actual video evidence of this happening. The election happens. Now the
Mhm.
opposition had put basically poll watchers everywhere. They had poll watchers everywhere because they wanted to make sure this was an actual election because they want Maduro gone. He is not popular in the country. This is known. This is well known that even Maduro knows he's not popular in his own country. Everyone knows it, except for Jackson Hinkle, of course. But then again, he's also getting paid off. um,
Violating
but,
FARA to so many degrees.
yeah. So what happened? The election happens. It's going. All the votes are cast. They begin counting. And during the night, there was multiple times where the poll watchers would actually, some people, like I saw one video of a poll watcher was asked by a crowd. One guy asked him, how many SOBs voted for Maduro?" And the woman yelled, "No one!" And the entire crowd just erupted in cheers. Everyone was so happy. And there was over 300 votes cast in just one precinct.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying that happened everywhere, obviously, but it's still a good trend to see that he's most likely did not legitimately win the election. And one thing that really told you it was a fraudulent election was I cannot remember what they are called, but it's a group of masked communists on motorcycles. What they did is they would come into the polling stations armed with AK-47s. They would steal the ballot boxes and take them away. No one would see those ballot boxes again. And this has actually been a tactic that has been used before, apparently, in Venezuela by the ruling government to try and basically silence, not silence, but just destroy the evidence of dissent.
Okay, it's also similar to stuff that to spin the rightward way, like the AUC would do in Colombia to corrupt elections. It's something that just kleptocrats use. They use their non-governmental terrorist or agency to do whatever.
Their I'm gonna say it, they're goons to do their bidding.
Yeah, like this is something we've seen before. Like again,
this
AUC, the Mongoose Gang,
even the Nazis.
Yeah, and like the SA at every polling station, ready to yoink stuff.
We see stuff like not exactly like this in Russia though, but we still see stuff like this in Russia where they just
it's not a unique style of corruption and basically breaking the social contract in democratic society.
Yeah. But of course, to bring this back, is this anti-democratic?
Like it really is kind of like the embodiment of democracy, of trying to like force an election anyway with any means possible to get it. Like it's why political machines naturally formed in the US. Like people in a democratic system basically just turn people into blocks and become the avatars of those blocks and do informal authoritarianism with like a mask of democracy over it. Because it works. It maintains a somewhat stable state unless the ruse is exposed, which like some people the ruse will be exposed, but they'll just be like go on day by day, they won't really care. But because I'm betting there's someone right now in Venezuela who's like, oh yeah, I know Maduro's a corrupt son of a bitch, but he, like, I don't know, gives me the right kickbacks to my region, invested in this thing.
I remember this was actually before the election. I saw that this is one thing that he's very often does is that they will great, my mind just blanked. I'm sorry.
They will
very often give kickbacks to certain people to try and flip their vote in an election. This is one thing they did in the legislative elections, though, was that they would actually basically just bribe people into voting for them. And people say, well, that's not democratic. And I was like, it still is, though. They're still voting. And just because they're being bribed doesn't mean that the democratic system isn't still being used.
Yeah, here's the thing. I've been bribed, basically. Like, someone, after my mother passed, one of my neighbors basically helped out a lot, and she was running for school board, so I voted for her for school board. I didn't know anything about her policies, but she did something for me. I might as well do something for her. Like, and most people think like that. It's why, like, with American politics especially, you'll see a bunch of single issue voters expecting their candidate to do X thing for them. Like for a while, a lot of people would vote for certain Dems just because they're like, or the Libertarians thinking like, oh, they'll legalize marijuana. They'll legalize marijuana. Like,
yeah,
people are democracy. It's not that people are dumb. Even a group of people can be smart enough. It's that democracy encourages people to both act as a group and as an individual, and that contradiction does not stand.
exactly. Yeah, you're asking people to do two very different things at the exact same time, and inevitably there is going to be friction that will occur and is occurring, and we see it's occurring.
Like Venezuela being a very overt example. Again, like the kickbacks trying to force people to vote one way, even though they would have to ignore massive amounts of corruption and mismanagement.
And
Because
also
they're willing to
just the
accept that.
economic decline. Yeah,
Like they're paying the devil's due for some semblance of stability and also some personal benefits.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
why
it's the matter of keeping the keys happy. The keys to power must be kept happy.
have we heard anything about like FARC involved with this? Because okay, tried looking up in the motorcycle gangs. Like, was it the Tupamaro? Or are you talking about another group?
God, I cannot remember though. I don't remember what the people called them, but I saw a group of them coming in and stealing ballots. I cannot for the life of me remember what they were called though.
Like, I think like they might not be a specific communist group because technically Venezuela isn't communist. They're like their own weird
Did I say they were communist? I meant to say they were just a socialist group. They were yeah, still a socialist group being used by the government.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I did not mean communist. I get them confused sometimes because of how often sometimes people will misinflate both of them at the same time.
Yeah. Like, because I'm kind of curious what groups like Tupamaro, the other, because there's a whole bunch of little terrorists kind of plinking around in the forest.
Oh yeah.
Like, actually, no, these guys apparently are elected. They're a part of the popular faction with Maduro.
Hmm.
Fascinating. Like, I'm wondering what they're doing because like it's kind of like if the Assad regime started to fall apart in those like fraudulent elections. Like we've already seen the Assad regime go through great strife, but like groups like the SSNP and all those ones on the periphery of the Ba'athist coalition, they're going to try to like grab as much power and influence as they can as Maduro starts to flail or Assad starts to flail. So we might see like even with was it the liberals who won? I do not remember the name of the anti-Maduro party.
I think it was just the Unity platform.
Okay.
It's not. I don't even know if it's like specifically liberal. I think it's literally just the Unity platform.
Okay. I'm right now looking at the fronts. There's Democratic Alliance. Like apparently, actually, a correction on the communists I was talking about earlier. They're now part of a different faction, which is made up of. Okay, just a bunch of anti-Maduro
it's just
communists.
the opposition candidate. He was of the Democratic Unitary Platform, which is just a anti Chavism liberal democratic big tent party.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a coalition of social democrats all the way to nationalists.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Like, because everyone's gonna unite together to basically overthrow the despot that stops them from gaining both regional and national power. Because that's the other thing. Let's just say if there was a good dictatorship, not good. I am loath to use the word good, but a plausibly mediocre, stable economy's okay. Things are vibing. Like, first time around, Perón. I'm gonna use him as an example. Not the greatest, not the worst, but democratic elements, even in a faux democracy, if they're not given their own due, they're going to cause instability, even if a system is stable.
Yeah.
Because like a democratic organization, as soon as it becomes an ideological body, yearns for power.
I mean,
everyone. Oh, sorry.
Almost everyone yearns for power in one way or another.
Well, they yearn for actualization. An ideology, because
Oh,
oftentimes these
fair, yeah.
people seed themselves over to ideology. That's kind of the name of the game for liberal capitalism, is that you adopt an ism as your soul, essentially, because you have
Yeah.
nothing else to consume.
And very often we see this in the modern day where people desperately try to find something to cling on to have themselves, have something. Like, I hate having to constantly beat this bush, but of course the Groypers, their whole thing is just anti-Semitism. They don't have any actual values, really. I mean, you look at Nick Fuentes, what does he have? He's just an anti-Semite. That's really it.
It's Zizek goes into this a little bit where, like, when he talks about Nazi anti-Semitism, it's like the world's in chaos, you don't know what's going on. As soon as you say look for the Jew, and you can imagine the Jew in any of the situations,
Yeah. I mean,
and the world makes sense to you
yeah.
suddenly.
Yeah, I know. And I'm gonna quote my grandmother. This is one thing my grandmother would say to me, or she would say this to my mom. My mom told me this: "You will always find what you're looking for, even if it's not really there."
Yeah,
Because
like,
you're, because like, and my mom gave me an example of she had a crush on this boy, and the boy sat next to her one time. My mom's like, "Oh, he must like me then," and of course that wasn't true. But you will find what you're looking for, even if it's not really there.
yeah, like, and people don't want to recognize it because it breaks their reality.
Exactly.
And actually, on a lack of policy, our other topic.
That's true. Our other topic is, now this is just one thing I saw on Twitter, and I saw it from like a few different people. Somebody had posted something along the lines of, what was it? Just I'm not gonna vote Democrat because I can't afford food or something of the like. I don't remember exactly what it was. It's Twitter. What do you expect from me on here?
Oh,
But
it was Trump is weird,
oh
and then
yeah,
that.
the Trump. I don't care that Trump is weird. I want I would like to have cheaper groceries. Yeah, thank you. And of course, some people have been responding to it. Just well, what is Trump gonna do to actually fix it? And I read through the comments, and of course, no one actually had a well. I can't say no one had a real answer. There were people who did actually have an answer though.
Yeah,
About they actually gave an answer, but it comes back to the fact of in our system and modern America, people don't actually give a fuck about policy.
we lost policy as soon as the Kennedy Nixon debate went on live television.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Because of course, what was it? People who watched it on television said that Kennedy won, but people who were listening to it on the radio said that Nixon won, and of course, all just comes down to the fact of presentation.
Yeah, Reagan was elected to office. Reagan, of all people, and he was the main reason he got elected.
Do I have to say the meme? Should I say the meme? Let's talk better mileage. Kill the bastards.
Like, it's that presentation, him being a movie star as well.
True,
Like,
yeah, I did have a lot on it.
and it also happened again. Trump, Home Alone 2, Who Wants to Be a Billionaire, all those TV shows that he was on. He was a household name because of, like, and honestly, the fact that the Kanye West, like, if Kanye West didn't have his breakdown,
I like Hitler.
like, he would have probably done a lot better in the polls.
Most likely, yeah.
Like, just because he's Kanye West. We've
Yeah.
moved beyond just like, oh, my political like interest group or whatever group I'm a part of benefits from this group or from this guy getting into office, so I'm gonna vote for him, or my block's gonna vote for him, or whatever.
Yeah.
Now it's just utterly if the person is consumable in the right way.
Yeah. And this is, of course, just down to the fact of what is happening in our capitalist system, where now our politicians no longer go from what do they actually stand on to how can I consume?
Like the MAGA movement having so much merch, all these political guys having so much merch.
Oh yeah, oh the merch. Like this is, I'm gonna try this back into my own local party. So I've said this in the last episode how we are having trouble with funds, and the one thing that always my leadership has been saying that we need to do is we need to start selling the Trump merch because it sells. Oh boy, does it sell! Some counties have gotten over $1,000 from selling this stuff.
Yeah, like you get into politics not for the policy's sake, not for your community's sake. Like you might use that as a rationalization now. You do it because you want an identity and you want to buy all the widgets that go with your identity. Like then honestly, of course people do this with the Nazis, with the uniforms and all that.
Yeah, I will say I do think there are some people who do genuinely care about the policy.
They're still true believers.
I even like, and I'm even like in politicians though, because like my state senator, he already is set on when it comes to economics because he owns multiple businesses. He's a very successful pizza man. Quite frankly, the best pizza man in the entire county and in the neighboring county. I mean this genuinely. If you, I swear, Watercube, you ever come down here, I'm taking you to that pizza place. You will understand what I mean.
I'm gonna like somewhat dox myself, but like nothing can beat Chanello's in my mind. Literally a mob front, and it's great.
Fair point. But I remember I was talking with him like, why did you enter politics? And he said, I just wanted to. He said, I just wanted to affect the policy. I wanted to. Well, no, he didn't say that exactly. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it wasn't
That
like
was the vibe.
I want to affect the policy. Like probably, but he's just I care about policy and what is able to help out people. But he didn't say that either. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was along those lines.
Some people need to like for the system to work, there needs to be some true believers mixed in with those who are just consuming.
Yeah,
it's like there's like some bourgeois asshole out there who genuinely believes he's raising people out of the gutter because he runs a drop shipping company on Amazon.
Yeah. And like there's even another one, like one of the county commissioners who very often I will see him. He will go up and actually talk to people and ask them like what's happening. And when he does it though, like I see him do it, and when he talks to them, he sounds genuine though. Like he doesn't sound like he's trying to fake it. Because like even when he's talking to like other politicians though, he talks to them the same way he talks to any normal person though. So I might be wrong, but
that's the other thing. Because like with you saying like you might be wrong, like that anxiety around politicians, because like even if someone seems earnest, you never know.
You never know. That's the thing. You never know. You really can't know. And so it's all you always feel like you have to be looking around every corner, just like you got to keep an eye open on them, just like always looking back over your shoulder. Like it's a paranoia that comes. Now it's tied to monarchism. It's a paranoia that comes with our modern democratic systems. It's the uncertainty of everything. The uncertainty of an election, the uncertainty of a candidate, the uncertainty of policy that happens.
And all that benefits the system as well because they want low voter turnout. They don't want people to engage with the system outside of paying homage during one of the big elections.
Yeah.
Like, there's no losing, like, as long as people don't have faith in the system. If they have faith in the system as well, again, they still win. They still remain on top. The system maintains itself and it's able to proliferate.
Yeah.
And we're seeing like a huge amount of radicalism kind of just as a byproduct of this disillusionment. Like, again, earlier mentioned, the Groypers, like, that should not exist in a healthy society. That group of people.
Yeah. That group that so desperately fixate on Jews just because they want something to blame as to why their lives aren't as happy as they are, and they project themselves onto Nick Fuentes, who I even saw a clip from a few days ago when a man paid like the $50 to give a shout out, and he said how he was thankful for everything Nick had done. He said how he was happy he was married with a wife and 3 daughters, and Nick Fuentes said, "That's gay. You have daughters? That's the gayest thing in the world, dude. So gay."
It's because like he's also that's another thing, actually. We're seeing the rise of, like, people basically keeping the persona that they were since they were 16, because that's easily, like, consumable, because a lot of people still identify with that. 16-year-olds do, and they're the easiest market to sell to.
Yeah.
And 2, like, some people are so mired in nostalgia, like, both parties are kind of, like, running on a normalcy, return to the good times ticket. Like, people want to feel nostalgic because the party's over. Like, that Hunter S. Thompson article, I don't know if you read it, but I posted it a while ago, where he talks about 9/11 being just the event where the party of the 80s, 90s, way before that, like this, all the way from the 50s onwards, is just over. The young generations will never experience that.
The hope of Kennedy is gone.
Yeah, like, we're now just in a Fukuyamist nightmare. We're in a malaise. We don't know who our enemies are. We don't know who our friends are. We don't know who in our society we can trust. There's no
Yeah.
institutions. There's nothing to hold on to because everything is just
Yeah,
rotting.
we're in a limbo right now.
I wouldn't even say limbo. I'd say hell.
Well,
Like a lower one
I
of those
don't.
nicer stages of hell in like Dante's Inferno, but like
Yeah,
we're
I
getting
don't.
down to the bottom.
I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would say that. But then again, that's just the way I see it. I don't think we're there yet. I
Like,
think we're certainly on the road to there, at least for right now. But I don't. Personally, I wouldn't say we're there yet.
well, it's not that we're really reaching there. Like we're in a hellish zone. We're not in
Oh yeah,
apocalypse. We're not
no,
Venezuela, but
no,
we're
I'm not
like
saying that. Yeah,
there's
yeah,
still food on the table. The
yeah,
food
yeah,
might be more expensive, but people are able to fill their stomachs.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, no, but I get it. Yeah,
Like then it's just the lack of institutions, and the institutions we have we're not caring for.
yeah,
And a lot of people want to disregard or hate on those institutions because we've also valued the individual over the group. And the individual is always hindered by institutions because the institutions are there to help the group.
yeah.
Because,
Again, it's a vicious cycle.
yeah, and it's going to reach a head where eventually that food will not be on the table,
Yeah.
and
It will eventually reach its Ouroboros.
yeah, it'll break. The wheel will break, and everything comes crumbling from there. Unless we do something.
Exactly. That's what we're saying. We need to do something because we're not saying monarchy is the perfect system. There is
Yeah.
no perfect system. It's not possible. Mankind is so flawed. We are so interested in our own greed that we can't find the perfect system. But monarchy is the factor that can bring at least some sort of stability to a system.
It's an institution that, like, even like with a constitutional monarchy, like you still have all the trappings of a liberal democracy. You just have a constitutional monarch. That office is an institution you can latch onto. That is
Exactly.
something that is neutral and out of the playing field.
It's something that you can project at least some hope onto.
Or remains a beacon of hope when most
Yeah.
people have lost it.
Yeah.
Like, because it is a pageantry and splendor, because that's the other thing. Pageantry reinforces institutions. It makes people have faith in them because it's a flex of power.
Yeah, I know. You see, like those people, like the the Republic group in the UK, just we shouldn't have this, and it's like, no, you need this.
Like, what
If you
holds the
what
United Kingdom
hold-
together?
Nothing. I mean, Blair was not horrible, other than the fact that we did in Iraq. That's besides the point. But Blair destroyed a lot of the unity in the United Kingdom by instituting the autonomy in Wales, in Scotland. Northern Ireland was a whole shit show. Okay, there's nothing.
There's no fixing that unless, like, you,
That-
like...
Northern Ireland was fucked. Has been fucked since the 50s.
I say hand it over to Sinn Féin. Call it a day. Be
God.
done with it.
Fuck Sinn Féin. But I understand. But you're not completely wrong.
Like, a united Ireland would at least, like, like, we'll see, like, some new migrations. Like, maybe we'll have a Western refugee crisis. Like, oh, wait, no, we already had one of those with Ukraine. I was gonna say we haven't had one of those in a while, but we currently are having one.
Well, America hasn't had one of those yet. Europe is having that with Ukraine, but we have yet to see that one again. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, there is hope. There's always hope. But it's going to be a long road.
Yeah, like, you need to build the institutions. Like, that's the big task, like, us as monarchists really face, is building that institution.
There it is, yeah. Well,
we'll get there one day.
We'll get there, yeah, we'll get there. It's a road, but we're trekking. We'll make it someday.
Hey, if the system falls apart, we'll still get something.
Yeah,
we'll get like local duchies. Like, it won't be great, but hey, like, I'll take it.
Better than nothing.
I'll take a warlord. Still lord.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Monarchist Minute. We are happy that you could join us. We hope you have a wonderful day, and please join us in our prayer Lord, we thank you that we were able to come here today to have a good intellectual conversation with friends. We ask you to please help the United States, to help all monarchies around the world and monarchists, protect us from the disasters that may be coming, and be with us always. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, amen.
Amen.
Y'all have a wonderful night, and thank you for coming on. You're honestly one of my favorite people to come on here.
I'm glad to be your favorite person. I will not return the compliment.
I didn't say you're my favorite person.
No, well, to come on here. Yeah, but I won't return the.
Fine. That's how it is.